Here's what you need to know about carbs being evil. They're not. Let's break it down. So we've done a protein one, we've done other podcasts on all the different areas, but carbs are the one that people hold dear to their heart. It's just culture. In the 80s, 90s, it was fat that got a bad name. In the 200s, millennials, new keto things, fasting, all that bullshit. It was low carb that got a good rap, and then carbs got a bad rap. So let's break it down. Why are carbs not bad? So we need to understand that when you are dieting, the research is super clear. It's indisputable. You can take all these people that talk about insulin and carbs and sensitivity, and you just put it into a box like this, and you can just kick it away because it doesn't exist. If you eat, and there's guys that have at McDonald's, there's guys that have done the Twinkie diet, there's guys that have done the potato diet, and they've just ate that thing, but ate in a calorie deficit, and they've lost weight. So how can someone on a high carb diet lose weight, but you're eating carbs and then your weight goes up? So, quite simple. You eat too many in high dosage. So people say to me, oh, but I love carbs, and then I eat a bunch of them and then my weight goes up. And I'm like, okay, but how much did you eat? And they go, oh, I had a pizza and then 4 pints. I'm like, well, no fucking shit. Like, of course. Like, you're having a pizza at Domino's or Papa John's. Papa John's is my favorite, if I'm being honest. In Dubai, they've got like a paneer tikka curry pizza. Obviously, there's large South Asian people out here. Love it, unbelievable. It's like a curry on a pizza. They're 2,000 calories, 1,500 on a good day. Now you can get pizzas like Pizza Express that are 800 calories that are really good, but they have a hole in the middle, so they're not really a pizza. It's more like a fucking round table of pizza. And you eat too many of them, so therefore they get a bad name. But if you ate them in the right dosages for your diet, you wouldn't have a problem at all. On the last diet I did, which is the pictures here with my big old chest, I looked very, very good. It was only the last 2 weeks of the whole diet that I had to reduce carbs less than 100 grams a day. For people that don't know what 100 grams of carbs is, that is one bagel, a bowl of cereal, a portion of potato, and some fruit. That was 100 grams of carbs. I only went down to that at the end of the diet because I was getting super, super lean. If you're trying to lose 10 kilos, you don't need to reduce them at all. And if anything, all the results that we got on our Instagram page shows you that you can eat the traditional South Asian food, which is carb heavy, and still drop 5, 10, 15 kilos. We've even got people losing 50 kilos eating carbs. How can that be a thing if carbs are evil? So why do they get a bad rap? This might go down a sciencey route, and I'm sure my video editor will put the little mathematical equations here and all this type of shit, because you don't take them into consideration in the portion that they need. And then when you do eat them, you overconsume them, which means that you get a bad relationship with them because you feel like you're eating carbs but then you're gaining weight, but it's the portions that you're eating them in that create the calorie surplus, which then creates the weight going up on the scale. Now, why do people think that they're bad? So when people break it down, there's two elements to dieting, and in your health there is like insulin, which is where basically eat carbohydrates, your blood sugar goes up. To regulate that blood sugar, we use insulin, or your body uses insulin to bring that blood sugar down and funnel it into specific areas like the muscle tissue. Because ultimately, whatever you eat, think about this, whatever you eat outside of a fat source like peanut butter, ghee, olive oil, everything else, protein, carbs, fruit, fucking crisps, all the healthy foods that you eat, chia seeds, fucking quinoa, they all turn into sugar. Now, wow. They all turn into sugar regardless. They go through here in whatever format they have, and then in here, they get digested into glucose. Fruit gets turned into fructose, but we don't need to talk about that. It's different, but it's not that different, is that they all get turned into sugar because our currency of our muscles and the energy that we utilize is glucose. So even if we eat protein, even if we eat carbohydrates, it all gets taken down into sugar eventually. So most of those stuff blood sugar goes up, and then we secrete insulin to then reduce it down slightly and then shuttle it into certain areas. Most people think that's where the fat loss gets stored off, because insulin is a fat storage hormone, which is true if you're eating it in high dosages. So does insulin take calories or sugar and put it into fat cells? Yes. If you're eating in a surplus of calories. If you're not eating in a surplus of calories, which means that you're in a calorie deficit in a diet, when you're eating less than you need, those sugars go and get utilized by the body to then be absorbed and then utilized as a currency of energy. So it's only when you eat in a high volume of things does it really then impact your fat storage. Now, there are people that are insulin resistant, which means that the glucose can't go into the cells because it is resistant to going in, and that's due to like health conditions. That's why I have diabetes, for example, but it doesn't mean that you can't lose weight because of it. It just means that you have higher resting blood sugars, more lethargy, and you have to do things to open up those channels, such as weight training, exercise, eating better sources of food. Like, there are easy ways that you can navigate that. So hopefully that you can see, just by an explanation of a short science lesson, is like, you don't need to worry about them unless you're over consuming them. So let's talk about what overconsumption really looks like and why the scale weight goes up. So there's one reason why the scale weight goes up on carbohydrate intake, even if you're in a calorie deficit, is because 1 gram of carbohydrates to get into that cell that I spoke about needs 4 grams of water. It's like a submarine taking a package to somewhere else. The submarine has the glucose in, but you need the water around it to transport it into the place that it needs to go. So every time you have 50 grams of carbohydrates, a bowl of cereal, it needs 4 grams of water per 1 gram to be transported. So therefore, when you put 50 grams of carbohydrates into a cell, a muscle tissue, a bicep, quads, legs, wherever, it needs 250 grams of water to be transferred into there. So when you eat them, you will absorb water too, which then puts the relationship between your scale and you higher to some degree, sometimes, unless you utilize the water, for example. So you will see a scale weight increase if you eat high doses of carbohydrates in one go, if you are doing that, because of this storage of water. It doesn't mean that you've gained fat on the scales, it means that you've gained water on the scales because you ate carbohydrates. And it will then leave, and then your scale weight will go back down, and then you'll eat some more carbs and then it'll go back down again. It's a natural process. So the scale weight does jump depending on the food sources you have and the transportation of those molecules. So a little bit of science. So then let's break it down to the actual crux of things, which is the overconsumption of carbs gives it a bad name. So what is technically overconsumption of carbs? It's because most people don't understand the calories that are in the food. Let's take a deep dive into the South Asian culture right now. What are most of the dishes made out of when we're looking at the complex nature of a plate? Is you will see dal, or you'll see a curry variation, then you'll see rice, then you'll see chapati or roti, and then you might see veggies. That means per one meal, there is 2 to 3 carbohydrate sources per meal, which means there are a high carb content to each facet if we stick to the usual plate of food: dal, rice, roti, maybe some veggies. So of course there is a higher carb content, but most people get that wrong because they are eating too many of those portions. An old adage is like, well, how many calories are in a roti, or how many calories are in the dal, whatever, but like most calories in terms of roti and chapati are like 200 to 250, 300 calories per one. Most people are accustomed to eating 3 to 4 of those per meal, and some, I was speaking to some clients recently who are plus 100 kilos, they're like, I normally have 8 chapatis with a meal. Well, of course, if 8 chapatis is 200 calories a chapati with no ghee, that's near enough 2,000 calories for just the chapati. Then we got the rice, which could be upwards of 300-400 calories. Then we got the curry that's on top. And then we have the ghee, if there is, or the cooking sauces that go into it. So one meal could be 1,500, 2,000 calories per plate. And most people don't just have one plate. So we can see that it's not the carbohydrates. Yes, they are the thing that you've utilized to eat calories, but they are not the problem. It's how many of those things that you eat to have that is the problem. So what we do is, when we work with Autonomy, is that we bring people's portion sizes down to equate to a normal calorie allowance. They don't have multiple dishes. They don't change if they have carbs in a dish or if they don't have carbs in a dish. They just change how many they're accustomed to get the benefit. So we take people's chapati down from 4 down to 2. We give the rice a bit more of a medium portion, so it's a quarter of a plate. Then we have the dal, the veggie curry, and then we load some salad because salad's fucking important. So then we reduce calories on a plate, we keep the carbohydrates there, but we are not taking them away, we're just eating in the right portion sizes. So we can see, even by just doing those things, we can get a better outcome in terms of reducing calories with eating carbohydrates. And here's how you fall off the wagon, is that you think that carbs are evil, so therefore you take them out. And when you take something out, you will crave that thing if it is part of your diet, and especially if it's part of your culture to have on a day-to-day basis. You will find yourself relapsing with the thing that you like the most. Most people do not want to give up the thing that they enjoy because they enjoy it. So when you do, you give it up for a short space of time, you use all the willpower, all the motivation to stay carb free, and then you end up relapsing because you don't want to do that anymore. So then you eat double the amount back because you've took it away for a period of time, and therefore then you end up eating overconsumption of calories in the later end of the week or the weekend because you've done it with 5 days without. If you kept the carbs in throughout the week, you wouldn't crave them at a higher degree, you wouldn't feel the need to get your money's worth out of it when you did have it, and you wouldn't fall short into that all or nothing mindset where it's like, oh, nothing for no carb, and then it's all carbs at the weekend, or when you go off plan, it's just everything in one go. So most people's problem is not that carbs are evil, it's their relationship with carbs that end up being the negative downfall to where they want to go. So all you have to do to stay away from this mindset of carbs are evil, they're the reason why I'm not losing weight, I eat a lot of them, I can't stop myself, I can't help myself, is that you don't take them out. Because your smoothie diets, your Atkins diets, your Weight Watcher diets, your low carb diets, you dieting off things that you've heard from friends and family, or someone's done a low carb diet and dropped 10 kilos and then gained it back, is that they end up doing that for a set period of time and you think that's the right way to go. But by taking things away, you want it more. If I took away my phone for a day, I would use it more the day after because I haven't used it for a day. If I took away chocolate from my diet, I would want to have it more when it came back. And takeaways, if I haven't had a takeaway for such a long time, I could fall myself into this pattern of being like, I haven't had one in such a long time, so therefore I'm gonna have more and get my money's worth, get out of it, and then I'll start afresh on Monday. And you go in that cycle, you go no carbs, you go a lot of carbs, you go back to no carbs, then you go all of carbs, and then you end up being net zero or up on the week because you can always out eat and you can't out train a bad diet. And the calories across the week is what matters the most. So even if you've done 800 to 1,000 calories Monday to Friday, but then you do 3 to 4 to 5,000 on the weekends on both days, you nullify the whole of your results. So just take into consideration when you're looking at that, the relationship with carbs for most people is the issue, not if carbs are the issue. That's any food. Your relationship with chocolate is the reason why you eat a lot of chocolate, not that chocolate's the bad thing. Because there are people in this world, believe it or not, that have one chocolate bar and they're good. They don't need 3 different ones to make that difference, or they don't need a full king-size pack of Doritos to get their fix. They can have 1 small pack of Doritos a day and be absolutely fine. Why is that? It's not the carbs' fault, it's not the Doritos' fault, it's the relationship you have with them when you've took them away that then nullifies this whole relationship. And then bringing on to the carbohydrate consumption and the different foods that you have, quite simple. It's like some foods are designed to make you want to eat them more. Doesn't mean that we do. So if you ever look at the research on crisps or biscuits, it's mind-boggling how much money people spend, businesses, corporations spend on creating the perfect crunch or perfect texture or the perfect size of things. Pringles. There are millions and millions of pounds gone into the research around Pringles to make sure that it's the enough crunch and enough texture to have an enjoyable feeling, but not enough of a substance to not go back again. So they make it purposely for you to overconsume. That's why you'll see that packs of biscuits have increased in size and the packs of crisps have increased in size, not because they're a share bag, because that's the marketing, but actually the share bags are for you to fool yourself to think that you are going to share this and then you eat it all because of how they've created the crisps, the biscuits, the things that are in these packs. Celebrations are not there because you want to share them with a family. They're made specifically this size so that when you eat it, you're not satisfied enough to have another one, and then you continue to have another one, and then because there's a lot of them, you lose track of how many you've eaten, and the next minute you've had a bunch of them, not because fucking celebrations wanted you to share them. They're there for your overconsumption. So there is an element of food is dictated and created in a way to have more of it. Why is chocolate bars either in duos or in smaller than it used to be? It was in smaller than they used to be because people then become common to buying 2 at the same time. That's why packs exist, 4 packs of Snickers, as opposed to picking up 4 separate bars. Or why king size exist, or why duos exist, or why 4 packs of Oreos exist, is because they're portioned enough to grab one and then grab another one, and then off you go. And most people look at the minimum viable product to have more of what they're doing. It's what personal trainers do. It's what online coaches do in the same marketing way. It's designed for you to use more of it and get recurring revenue. People make them in a certain way that you consume more of them, that it becomes a staple in your house, it becomes a staple in your life, and then you end up eating more of them over time because you are fooled into thinking that they are certain ways. Pringles are not a tub because that's the right thing to do. Pringles, that tub, is there because once you put your hand in and you reach down, you get another one, there's a reward at the end of it, and then you reach down and find another one, and then you get another one. And then they're so moreish because of the way that they've been created in terms of their thinness of crunch and texture, and that creates more development. So you have to be wary about not only what you're doing with your portion sizes, what you're doing with your normal foods and intake, but when you have these foods and the way that they're created, you have to look at what they're designed for. Pringles are not designed to be a food, a superfood, a nutritious food. They're designed as a marketing ploy for you to eat more of them, because that's how they work business-wise. They start by getting more in your household so that you become a household name. Pringles, the Walkers, the Oreos, the Biscoff biscuits, the digestive biscuits. They don't come in packets like that because they're nutritious and they're beneficial for you. They come in packs like that because they're designed not to eat just one of them. And then they're reinforced by not just eating one of them because you see another one and then you want to desire that food. So there is a war always against the marketing ploys of biscuit, crisps, carb companies. And then equally, you have to look at this other side of things. So that's one side of the coin when it comes to carb-based foods, is that they're designed for you to eat more of them psychologically, physically. The textures that are involved all are not designed because that's to make the perfect biscuit. They're making the perfect biscuit for you to fucking eat more of them, because that's a perfect biscuit in their eyes, because that's marketing. You know, if I could create a business that everyone watching this would buy 70 times my program, I'd be a millionaire, trillionaire, and that's what biscuit companies are doing to you. But let's look at the flip side of things. What are these low carb companies? What are these Warden Farm companies, these skinny syrups, these low carb crumble pizzas? Why are they the way they are? Firstly, they're tapping into the alternative reality of people in this scenario. They're tapping into, you want to be healthy, you want to be carb free, so therefore you buy their product at a high mock-up price. All of the low carb foods are higher in price because you're willing to pay a premium to stay away from the things that you fear. So there's both opposite ends of the spectrum, which is you're getting fucked over by the companies to be moreish on the carb things, but then you fear these things, so then you go to these things, and these things are triple the price for the same thing. Halo Top, for example, amazing, low calorie stuff, really, really love it. But here, it's fucking £10 a fucking tub. Why? Because people would rather spend £10 to get lower calories ice cream than pay £3 for a Magnum tub, because they're fearful of the calories that are in that or the carbs that are in that. So you need to think about both ends of the spectrum here in terms of what's on offer and why they're doing that. Why are Warden Farmers making skinny syrups? Because people know that they're health conscious, they're diet conscious, so they'll pay £10 for a tub of caramel sauce that's 5 calories, that tastes like acid, but people will buy it because they're fearful of the normal caramel sauce, because they're fearful of carbohydrates. So we need to look at both ends of the spectrum here, and the absolute honest answer is just eat normal fucking food. Just eat normal food. Stay away from the high price, low carb stuff unless you absolutely need it. And stay away from understanding the overconsumption methodology of big companies, big biscuit, crisp companies, and stay in the mid-ground with normal food. And you can't go wrong there. And the last thing, the low carb noodles, stay away from those. There are research, and there is a person that ate 3 to 4 packs of those 0 calorie noodles from Holland & Barrett's and ended up having issues with her digestive system, because these noodles, which aren't calorific but they're just made out of something crazy, I don't know what they are made out of, end up congealing in her stomach and having issues for months with her digestive system because it was all congealed and stuck into there. You need to stay away from some of the things that are super low carb and low calorie, because if they've got 60 ingredients into something that is 5 calories, that's not a good example either. Stick to normal foods, and that's why we do with our clients. South Asian food, keep it realistic, keep it normal, work on your portion sizes, understand this end of the coin, understand this end of the coin, and you stick in the middle, and you won't think carbs are evil. You'll be able to stick to your portion sizes, and you won't have a relationship with carbs that are negative, and you'll be able to eat them in the right way that you should.